Tom Aspinall is the most disrespected fighter in the UFC, and it's not even close. The amount of UFC brass members like Daniel Cormier, Chael Sonnen, and people covering the sport that are high up in the UFC, work for the UFC, or are a part of these like established MMA media companies that are acting like Tom Aspinall is irrelevant. And I'm not going to be gaslit by this anymore. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily trying to gaslight us. I'm just fucking sick and tired of the disrespect on Tom Aspinall. The way people talk about the heavyweight division with Pereira moving up and him fighting Jon Jones and how that's the fight to make, you would think that the heavyweight champion is like a boring fighter. You would think that they are an unmarketable, boring fighter that goes out there and takes people to decision, when in reality, it's a KO artist that is breaking records for how quickly they are able to finish people in emphatic fashion. And again, they're ignoring the fact that if Alex Pereira were to move up, he could win a third belt, and he would be the only fighter in UFC history to be a 3-weight world champion, and these guys aren't even fucking mentioning that, and it's a fucking disgrace how they're not even mentioning this shit. And again, it's this total dismissive attitude. It's omitting Aspinall in the conversation. It is so crazy to me how these guys continue to act like he doesn't even fucking exist. And at this point, I think what it was is it started with the fighters. It started with Jon Jones. It's because Aspinall is so terrifying. He's so scary. He's so formidable. Nobody wants to fight him outside of the, line him up heavyweight contenders where they're like, fuck it. I'd rather fight the champ and have a chance. But when it comes to people like Pereira, I'm not saying Pereira is necessarily ducking Aspinall. He's been at light heavyweight, but who's he calling out? He's not calling out Tom. I understand Jones is a bigger fight, but Jones is also a much less dangerous fight. And you know what? In these clips I'm about to show you, Chael Sonnen would have you think that Jon Jones is the scarier fight. And that's another thing that's delusional. They keep bringing up that Jones versus Pereira is the battle between the two baddest men on the planet. And I'm not here to tell you that Jon Jones is not a really formidable fighter and not one of the best in the world. I understand he is, but the point is, Tom Aspinall made him leave the UFC and tuck his tail because he was too afraid to get in the octagon with him. He's never been afraid of Alex Pereira. It's just funny how it's always Tom Aspinall that makes these UFC legends just, anyone else? Right? Aspinall's always the guy where he's like, hey, I'm just willing to fight anyone. And none of these guys want to fight him. And I'm going to show you the utter delusion from these UFC brass members and the disrespect.
But then he goes to the post-fight presser, and when they were asking him about the future, right, he brought up Jones. He said, Aspinall, Cyril Gane, almost like deflected that and said,
isn't it kind of interesting? And this will be a theme in these two clips that I'm going to show you. It's always when it comes to UFC fighters, Aspinall, I want this guy instead. Yeah, because he's the actual boogeyman. Nobody wants to fight him. But these guys are going to try to gaslight you into thinking that actually, oh my God, he called out Jones? Whoa, who does that? Who calls out Jones? I mean, you'll see it with Chael in the next clip. But as I said, it's going to be a theme. It's always, whoa, Aspinall? I don't want to fight him, anyone but him. You'll see. I'm not even saying Pereira is necessarily ducking. I understand he has a good reason for wanting to fight Jones. It's a much bigger fight. It's a much bigger payday. But still, I just do find it interesting that no one wants the smoke with Tom.
I want to fight Jon Jones. I mean, does this make it more likely that we will see Jon Jones back in the octagon, especially if it's against Pereira?
I predicted for you, Daniel. I told you all week, and people were kind of looking down on me. I said, I don't think we see Jon Jones return against Aspinall. I think we see Jon Jones return against Pereira. And I said, and I don't think it matters if Pereira wins or loses. He becomes a heavyweight, and that match is so special for so many reasons. You and I understand to a little bit of a higher level what makes Jon Jones tick. And Jon Jones is not just a guy that loves the sport and he's going to show up and do it. He needs some certain reasons, but Alex provides.
That is one of the most bullshit narratives when it comes to Jon Jones. Oh, he's only going to come back to a special X Factor once in a decade kind of fight. Let me remind you that a couple of years ago, Jones was in a similar position where he was retired and he came back to fight Gane. Was Gane a once in a lifetime, once in a decade kind of legendary UFC fighter that just made Jon Jones tick? Did he really have that X factor? Or was it just the fact that Francis Ngannou had retired, and as soon as he had an opportunity to fight anyone other than Francis Ngannou, he leaped on that? So I don't buy this narrative that Jones is the big slumbering giant in the cave. He's in his sleep. No one could wake him up unless it's a legendary fighter that could make him tick and wake up. No, Jones has said in the past that he would be willing to fight Jamal Hill. And this is when everyone was saying, you need to fight Tom Aspinall. He literally was out there saying, I'll fight Jamal Hill. I just want fun fights. I don't care which division. I just want to fight anyone other than Tom. So this idea that it has to be something special, actually, no. If Tom Aspinall was not a heavyweight, if he wasn't around, Jon Jones would have never retired. He would still be fighting at heavyweight like nothing ever happened. He would be active. He'd be happily fighting anyone. The only reason he left is because Tom Aspinall made him leave and tuck his tail, because he doesn't want the smoke. He didn't want to get in the cage with Aspinall. So no. It's not because, it's got to be a fight that makes him tick. And we know that. Jones is not going to come back to anyone. He literally would come back to fight Volkov. He would come back to fight Gane again, as long as it's not Tom. So that's fucking bullshit. He didn't want to fight Francis. He came back to fight Gane. That just simply disproves that.
By the way, there was one little piece of pushback when you and I spoke to Dana on Friday night, and we asked him this question, and Dana was just saying, look, size matters. As great as Pierre is, he used to be a middleweight. Have you seen Tom Aspinall?
More gaslighting. All this is a way to dismiss Tom Aspinall from the conversation. Pereira is the biggest light heavyweight on the roster. What are you talking about? Daniel Cormier, a guy that could have made welterweight, became a double champ against Stipe Miocic. So this idea that, Aspinall is just too big, it's just a nonsense fight. Why would you ever even talk about that? The real fight is Jones versus Pereira. Even though Jones, a couple of years ago, was the heavyweight champ. He's not too big for Pereira, but Aspinall is. All that is we need to sell Jones versus Pereira. We have to find a way to get Aspinall out of the conversation because, again, he's the most disrespected fighter ever. And they just don't want to promote him. Okay, and he's the most ducked fighter ever. All that is let's just dismiss him. That's why Chael Sonnen is using this as a write-off comment to just get Aspinall's name away. So we can focus on Jones and Pereira and hype that fight up.
Do you know the absolute size of that man? But now that we're not talking about Tom Aspinall.
Yeah, because you just made an argument as to why we shouldn't be. But now that we're off of that subject, because clearly my statement disproved any reason to believe that Aspinall versus Pereira would be interesting, we can focus on what matters. Old man Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira.
Talking about Jones, who Pereira probably weigh a couple pounds more. Let me give you the hot take of the day. If I'm in Jon Jones's shoes and I hear this and I feel this buzz and there's this huge fight and it has all of a sudden got my interest, but there's no title on the line, I can fix that real fast. I can say, I will fight you, and I'll even find a world title, because it's going to be yours. I'll see you at 205 pounds.
Oh my God, Eureka moment. Hey man, have you considered that there could be a third belt on the line, and Alex Pereira could be the only fighter in UFC history to win 3 belts? You know, Daniel Cormier flexes being a double champ. There are only a handful of double champs in UFC history. That's really rare. You know what's even more rare? What's even more unprecedented? What you guys are totally fucking ignoring is that Pereira has a chance to win a third belt. This is a guy that's talked about as being the best combat athlete in history because he was champion in multiple combat sports. Now he has an opportunity to do something again that has never been done before, winning a third belt. And you guys are out here freaking out about Pereira defending his belt again at light heavyweight. The whole allure of him moving up to heavyweight is let's see if he can handle a big guy like Jones, a big guy like Aspinall. But now they're like, oh, light heavyweight Jones. As if like we haven't seen these guys fight at light heavyweight a billion times. Again, they're just totally ignoring the triple champ potential for Alex Pereira, which just doesn't make any sense. It's insane how they're just ignoring this.
And if Jon Jones does that, my partner, we're having a very different conversation.
Oh, chill. Oh, my God. I didn't even think about that. Now you can let heavyweight, because here's the problem.
Yeah, no one thinks about that because that's not interesting at all. Like, okay, yeah, it is a big fight, 100%. I'm not going to act like it's not. I'm not even going to act like Jon Jones is not a tough test for Alex Pereira. Like, yeah, he's obviously someone that could finish Alex Pereira on the ground. But, like, there's a reason why, oh, my God, I didn't think about that. Yeah, because Pereira at heavyweight is the fucking move.
Him saying no to those guys at heavyweight. It's a super fight, but what's it for? When you get those great names like him and Jones, you want it to be for...
What is it for? A chance to become the only triple champ in UFC history. To do something unprecedented. That's what it's for. But, you know, I understand him moving to heavyweight, but let's not lose sight of what's really important here. A light heavyweight title fight. No, man. No.
Something. So, yes, 205-pound fight between him and Jon Jones would be amazing. And it gets rid of the idea that Jones is afraid of Tom Aspinall, right? Because
no, it doesn't. It actually enforces it. That as soon as Jon Jones has an opportunity to fight anyone other than Tom, even though Jones, when he left the light heavyweight division a long time ago after the Dominic Reyes fight, made no plans on ever returning and literally took like 4 years to bulk up. It enforces it when you have Jones that now at the blink of an eye is going to be willing to cut a fuckload of weight, lose a shitload of muscle that he put on in the past 5 years to fight Alex Pereira.
Now he's back at 205 where he's always been, and he's fighting the champion there. That makes all the sense in the world. But to have the two of the biggest stars in the UFC fighting at heavyweight, when the heavyweight title fight is being contested between two other guys, the champion and the number 2 contender, it just doesn't make much sense.
That is one of the most insane statements. It doesn't make sense. Tom Aspinall and Ciryl Gane, that's what he's talking about. The heavyweight champion is occupied with the number 2 ranked contender, Ciryl Gane. It just doesn't make sense to talk about it. They're busy. Aspinall's busy. Okay? That fight's happening in 2 weeks. All right? We're not talking about Pereira's next fight being in 3 weeks. Oh, Aspinall's going to be occupied. It needs to be someone else. Dude, we're talking about Pereira's next fight happening next summer. Okay? 6 or 7 months from now. We're talking about it happening next year. All right? Over 6 months from now. Tom Aspinall's next fight will be all said and done and concluded in 2 weeks. All this is, yet again, is another way to dismiss Tom Aspinall, and any little excuse they can find, they will use it. Oh, Tom Aspinall, he's got a little stain on his shirt. He's got a stain on his shirt. He was eating spaghetti. He's got a stain on his shirt. It can't be him. It can't be him. Anyone else. Anyone else. Okay? Oh, Tom Aspinall, he made a typo. He was sending an email. He made a typo. You know, Tom Aspinall had a sneeze the other day. It can't be him. He's distracted with his little sneeze. It's got to be Jon Jones versus Pereira. You know, Aspinall blinked. Oh, you lost. You lost the staring contest you didn't even know you were in. He blinked. It's got to be Jones versus Pereira instead. Aspinall's busy. Don't you guys get it? He's busy. Fucking bullshit. And I'm on to these guys.
But to have those guys fight at 205, absolutely. I don't think the title of baddest man on the planet needs to be officially on the line as the heavyweight championship, because I believe a strong number of people in the world, or at least people that watch that are more casual fans, will believe that they're seeing the 2 baddest men on the planet because they're 2 best well-known big men in the world.
There's some truth to that, 100%. Jon Jones is the household name. He still is looked at by the more casual fans that only tune in to a couple of UFC fights a year. They believe Jon Jones is still that guy. 100%. I get what Daniel Cormier is saying. There's some truth to it, but let's not ignore the fact that one of the reasons why that is the case is because the UFC refuses to promote Tom Aspinall. And It's crazy because you would think that Tom is some boring fighter. You would think that he's some like decision fighter that no one really likes to watch, and he's got a boring personality. But it's quite the opposite. People like Tom Aspinall interviews. They tune into his YouTube channel. They love his vlogs. And he is a record holder for the shortest average fight time in UFC history because how quickly he's able to viciously knock people out over and over and over again. This guy is breaking records because of how dangerous he is in the octagon. He is KOing people left and right in the heavyweight division where KOs are supposed to happen. He's not a boring fighter, and the UFC just doesn't promote him. And also, the UFC refuses to touch the aspect of Jon Jones ducking Tom Aspinall when it comes to promo. For the UFC 321 promo that they're doing for Aspinall and Gane, there's no mention of Tom Aspinall being so scary he made the GOAT duck him and leave the sport. They won't even mention it. They are not willing to do any kind of promo that could be at the slightest bit of detriment to Jon Jones's legacy and the way that people perceive him as a badass. Even though Tom Aspinall is the current champ that they should be prioritizing, and he's not someone that's going to retire in a couple of fights, 1 or 2 more fights. He's someone that's going to stick around for a lot longer. They refuse to promote that aspect, which is the most important aspect to introduce him to new fans. Hey, you think Jon Jones, this household name that you all know, is really scary? Check out The Real Boogeyman. Okay, Jones left the sport. He retired. He wanted nothing to do with this guy. The UFC won't even touch it. They won't even mention that. That's why Tom Aspinall is not going to be a big star, and that's why these guys can always just say, oh, Aspinall's not a bigger name. Of course, if they promoted Tom Aspinall, he still wouldn't be as big of a name as Jones necessarily, in part because he would never fight Jones because Jones would never give him the opportunity, and therefore he could never beat Jones and get a lot of that hype. But also, he's still a lot earlier on in his career. But a big part of why he doesn't have hype with the more casual audience is because the UFC refuses to promote him. All right? So they can always just say, oh, Jones is the bigger star anyway. It makes no sense to do Tom. Yeah, because they're always disrespecting Aspinall.
Jones versus Pereira. The names, the champion. Doesn't matter the weight class. But 205 for the belt makes it even better.
It doesn't make it even better. It makes it way cooler to have Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira, where it's not just Jones who 100% is going to dive at the legs and shoot a takedown versus a guy that's a striker. It's 2 KO artists in their prime. That's another issue with the Jones fight versus the Aspinall fight. With Jones, if he loses, people will simply write it off and say he's no longer in his prime. And there's actually a bit of truth to that. He isn't in his prime anymore. He's older, he's cobblier than ever. Okay? So people can just write it off. Whereas there would be 0 asterisks on Alex Pereira beating Tom Aspinall, especially if Tom Aspinall is able to get yet another win against Gane. And it's more entertaining when a baddest man on the planet fight is between 2 fighters capable of knocking the other one out. Whereas Jon Jones, yes, he's dangerous. Yes, he can get a finish. Yes, he's a scary fighter in his own right, 100%. But it is missing that KO threat aspect that makes these heavyweight fights fireworks. These fights have you on the edge of your seat because you're like, oh my goodness, at any second, either Pereira or Aspinall can get KO'd brutally in the first round. Whereas with Jones, you know he's going to shoot a takedown. With Aspinall, he might shoot a takedown, he might not. He could KO Alex. That's more interesting. They're both in their prime. More interesting. It's for a third belt. These guys are not even mentioning it. There was not yet one mention in this entire clip of Alex Pereira having a chance to become the only triple champ in UFC history. Okay, and now I'm going to show you Chael Sonnen's clip.
Why does Alex Pereira want to fight Jon Jones? Have you ever thought about that? Now, I love the match. I respect the call out. But let's just stand back for a second. Why does Alex Pereira want to fight Jon Jones?
He's setting this up because he wants us all to be like, this is what he's doing. He's saying, why does he want to fight Jon Jones? This reason, that reason. No. Shut up. He's looking you in the eye to have a real moment here where he's like, no, but seriously. Why is Alex Pereira calling out Jon Jones? Because Jones is the most terrifying fighter ever? That's what Chael Sonnen's doing. He's like, no, money, okay, this and that, the fame and all of that. Big fight, yeah. Big name value. No, but guys, it's Jon Jones. Shiver me timbers. Why does he want to fight that guy? That's what he's doing.
I don't believe anybody's ever wanted to fight Jon Jones.
We just went through this for 2 years, Chael. Aspinall was begging to fight Jon Jones for 2 years.
Realize you'll find a couple of people that said it. I don't believe them. I don't believe those people.
Really?
Now, Jon Jones, for a large period of his career, if you were to go to something such as Google and just see, has anybody called out Jon Jones? All right, fair enough, you'll find some yeses, but we can also then quickly understand that had to do with world championships.
That's what he's going to say about Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall, at the end of the Jon Jones saga, when he had, it was the final straw for Tom, he started saying things like, at this point, I just want to fight for the title. When he was exhausted, when he was totally done with everything, he was like, at this point, I just want to fight for the belt. But for 90% of the saga, he was saying, dude, I want to fight Jon Jones because he's a UFC legend, one of the greatest fighters of all time. I respect everything that he's done, and I would love the opportunity to fight him. And he had said that about 1,000 times. So that's just bullshit.
That had to do with main events. That had to do with paydays. There was a lot of things that you packaged that you actually wanted.
But a fight with Jones, that wasn't one of them. I mean, everyone wants the belt. You're willing to get in the cage with anyone who has it. But scrapping with the Jones Bones man himself just wasn't a part of it. Yeah.
That you named Jon Jones. The one piece of the deal you actually didn't want was to fight Jon Jones.
It's just crazy how, again, that they talk about Jones like he's the boogeyman, scariest fighter. And again, he is a scary fighter. He is a dangerous fighter. Yeah, he's not going to KO you. Yeah, he'll submit you. Yeah, he'll ground and pound you. Tom Aspinall has the threat of putting your lights out. There's something to be said about a KO threat at heavyweight. Fighters that consistently send people to the shadow realm. It just so happens that those are the guys that are ducked at heavyweight, that those are the guys that Jones wanted nothing to do with. It just so happens that actually Pereira, he's happy to call out Jon Jones. Sure, Jones could finish him. Jones could put some damage on him, but sure, no one has a problem calling out Jones. Who's calling out Aspinall? Actually, let's rephrase this. Who's calling out Tom? Nobody. It's actually the other way around. People are willing to fight Tom because he has the title. Because the UFC is saying if you beat Tom even before he had the title, you can get the title shot. It's the opposite, man. You've got it all confused.
So I'm just telling you, I think that Alex Pereira might be the first person to ever call out Jon Jones.
Insane. Again, he's implying that Aspinall only wanted to fight him because he had a belt. Yeah, when he was on his last straw, when he was totally fed up, and he had been asked about the Jones fight 50,000 times. Yeah, sure. He said that. That was not true. He was just saying, listen, fuck it. Just give me a title fight. I'm just done with the Jones thing. This guy's sitting on the belt. He clearly wanted the Jon Jones fight for a long time. Okay?
Well, I actually think they want to fight.
But Chael doesn't even believe this. He doesn't even believe this, but this stuff is too good not to cover.
John, this isn't about a main event. This isn't about Madison Square Garden. This isn't about pay-per-view points and legacy, and they actually want to fight Jon Jones. X's and O's, my skills versus your skills. Just so we know. Just so we can go on through this journey known as life.
They actually want to fight Jones. Like, let's just kind of look a little bit deeper into that. Let's get a little closer. Let's slice through the fluff. X's and O's, catch a tiger by his toe. He wants to get in the cage with Jon Jones. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, we will continue to live life. We'll eat dinner and breakfast, and we'll wake up when the sun rises and go to bed when the sun sets. But let's be serious for a second. He wants to fight Jones. Wow.
and have the answer to this question. Can I beat you or can you beat me? I mean, it is extremely...
Whoa! Whoa! He wants to get in the cage with an old Cobbly Jones. Again, people are going to think, dude, you think Jones is bad? No, he's obviously an amazing fighter. He's not the scariest fight, though. And Chael Sonnen is trying to make it seem like you have to be a psycho. You have to be mentally unstable to want to fight Jones, just to see if you can beat him, to prove you're the best fighter. He thinks you have to be a psycho. Actually, no one's calling out Tom. No one wants to fight him. They're too scared to fight him. Here's actual proof. It's happened many times. Pereira just, of course, you know, no one, hey, it's just a theme. No one calls out Tom. It's the other way around, man. You have to be a psycho to want to fight Tom, man.
Honorable. But why does Alex Pereira want to fight Jon Jones?
But why does he want to fight Jon Jones? We got to open up his head. We got to conduct a brain surgery. We have to study him. We have to study him. I'm willing to put forth my life savings to figure out why. We need to study this man's brain. Why is he so crazy? Why does he not? Why does he take his health for granted?
Don't tell me money.
Don't tell me money. Although that's the reason. Watch this. Watch this.
Pierre's rich.
Pierre's rich. Yeah, because wealthy UFC fighters, keep in mind, UFC fighters don't make as much as boxers, baseball players, basketball players, whatever. They're not interested in making an extra $5-10 million, right? Yeah, Pereira's got money. He's got millions. $5 to $10 million. He doesn't want that. Yeah, he does. That's why, in part, he wants to fight Jones. Jones is a bigger name. Therefore, Pereira's going to get more money for it. He's at the point in his career where he's like big fights and big fights only. Yeah, I'm sure he's motivated massively by the fact that that's a bigger payday, which is why I'm not here to criticize Alex Pereira. I get it. I'm just saying the UFC, hey, make the coolest, most badass fight. It's still going to be a big fight for Alex Pereira. And you know what, Pereira? I'm sure he's still going to like the aspect of him becoming a triple champ. Yeah, there's some legacy aspect to it. 100%. Jon Jones has a better resume than Tom Aspinall. He has not officially been beat in the UFC, even though he was obviously beat by Reyes. It's not on his record officially. I understand that. Yes, legacy-wise, it's a big fight for Pereira. 100%. He's going to get a lot of credit. The problem is, as someone that loves the GOAT conversation, I know there is 0 asterisks on him beating Tom Aspinall. Triple champ. You could say, well, in hindsight, is that Aspinall win going to mean a lot? Yeah, you could say that for a double champ fight. For a triple champ fight, so legacy-wise, in their prime version of Tom Aspinall, again, keep in mind he would have the Gane win on his resume to bolster it even more if this fight were to happen. Triple champ status, that's never been done. Ever. And yeah, it has been done where Jones has been beat. And even if, oh, well, it hasn't been officially done, yeah, but Jones is older. People can just say, oh, it's an old version of Jones. It's an old man Jones, not in their prime. Not in their prime. You understand. They're both good for legacy. They're both great for legacy. I think an in their prime heavyweight champion in Tom Aspinall, who's super dominant, who is on his way to GOAT status. Dude, Tom Aspinall, after he beats Gane, will be a top 3 heavyweight of all time. That is also amazing for legacy. But either way, I've exhausted all the points that I want to make in this video. Again, Tom Aspinall continues to be disrespected, continues to be omitted out of these conversations. It's just frustrating. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.